Blessings, Soul Family. This is Jules, and this is the Activate Evolution podcast, a pathway to infinite possibilities. And today I'm doing the Ask Jules podcast recording, and I have beautiful soul leaders here with me as we reflect on the frequencies of this really powerful week that we are in. So, whether you're hearing this in the now moment or you're hearing it a couple of weeks from now, what I would like to invite you all into is how we can start to reimagine or recreate these kind of calendar frequency patterns, or even the astrology frequency patterns that we have connected to and created realities around in the past. Because as we continue to ascend into the new human experience, it is time to really move beyond these calendar portals or even astrology in order to really move outside the looping system of the matrix. So I know this week we have the lunar eclipse, and then on Friday we have the 1111 portal. And so often we'll go into these and it's exciting, right? Because it's change, and we're being supported by the universe, and we have these downloads coming in or these portals opening up. And the truth is, we're doing it. We are the ones that are in creation of the matrix. And so we've set up these calendar dates to kind of boost the awakening of humanity. But as way showers and soul leaders, it is time for us to up level what these holidays are really about. And so it doesn't mean that we don't connect to the energies that are here and we don't use it to boost our own ascension. But the place where it really should be coming from is activating our inner codes, those codes of the DNA that are holding divine intelligence, in order to express a frequency pattern of the creation of our next. So, what that can look like is whatever frequencies come in that we're really feeling, is go ahead and feel them, attune to them. But then once you are aware of what the frequency is, turn it inside out. You guys will hear me say that. Turn it inside out, turn it inside out. Meaning that what we're using reality for is that we see what's there. And then once it's seen, we allow it to shift into the frequency of the divine. And then we move it into the frequency pattern of what is actually there beyond the matrix, meaning we don't create form with form anymore, you guys. We don't say, oh yeah, there's this eclipse, or there's this thing, or this is going on, and then we recreate a reality of the looping cycle of the frequency from which it was created. We're done with that. It's time to create from a frequency that hasn't been created before. And the only way that we do that is by tapping into source intelligence through our DNA, turn on a code that is holding a very specific frequency of whatever it is that we're in creation of. We bring it into an expression, and then we allow that to be the creation of whatever it is that we were shown. So how can we do this today? We're in the eclipse, right? And there's all these things about, oh, well, that's doing this and it's doing this, and the astrology is saying this, and the astrology is gonna have this happen. And let's just wipe it clean. Let's wipe it clean. Because if we're receiving information on what it's going to be from anywhere but from within inside of our own wisdom, then we are creating another loop. So another way that we could enjoy the frequencies of this day is that when we're shown things, that we turn it inside out. And so, and we'll open it up for discussion of what those things could quote unquote be. But I think a really easy way of knowing whether or not you're in creation of the new is by knowing what level of consciousness you're in. Meaning, if you're trying to make it happen, if you're going searching for things, then you're in the third level of consciousness. If you're listening and doing, you're in the fourth. And the listening is listening to those frequencies of the DNA that's holding an expression of frequency, right? So when so the way you can see the DNA is that it's almost like a well, let's just say it's like a guitar. And the guitar strings, when they're plucked, they release a frequency, right? And that frequency moves into the room. And then, of course, when we're talking about a DNA code, it's going to be in a scalar frequency. It doesn't ever diminish over time and space. With a guitar string, it's more of a hertz frequency. So yes, it's eventually going to stop playing and the frequency will diminish. But once that guitar string is strung, the frequency is released in that very specific pattern, and that pattern has information in it. So when the DNA is awakened or the code is awakened, you can see almost like source frequency is right behind it. And so when source is going through the DNA, it has all these different codes that it can hit, right? And when it's hitting a specific code, that specific frequency is released so that we can attune to that frequency and receive the information that it's saying. And once we attune to the frequency of what it's saying, we hold the intelligence of what it's saying and we become that intelligence. And then we can kind of shift it into more of telethought. But there's a lot of different codes for a reason, because if we were just given all of the intelligence of source frequency all at one time, we wouldn't be able to hold it. We wouldn't be able to attune to all of the specific information in order to, and to be able to hold that frequency in physical form at this time would be almost impossible. Like it would be, there's a time where we have to be like, how much frequency can we actually hold? And that's why when we're ascending through the light body, we're doing it in steps, because we're literally taking something that's dense to something that's not. That's a big transformation. And once something that's dense transforms into something that's not, it doesn't go back to being dense anymore. So we have a lot of things to release, but to be able to hold consciousness in the shift itself is a big part of this. And that's why we have very specific codes that lead us into a place where we can hold 100% divine intelligence. We say 100% human potential, because all of those codes will eventually turn on and we will consciously be attuned to all of them until we become 100% that intelligence. So every time that we're moving into these frequency patterns of these kind of big days, let's recreate it by turning on the code that has the truth of what this day that's been in a loop for such a long time has the potential of becoming. And then we get to experience something we've never experienced before in a much higher frequency, because it's coming through the purity of source intelligence. Okay, so that's my little teaching. So now let's open it up to questions. It can be questions about today, this week. It can be something you're working on. This is your astral's time, and I'm here to reflect to you and support you in any way that I can. All right, Jess, let's go with you.
I'm going to jump in and ask about.
Oh, you're still on mute, Jess.
Oh, okay.
Or I'm not hearing you.
Oh, I'm unmuted. No, still not.
Hearing you.
Hold on a minute. I don't know why.
Are you hearing her, Serena? You are? Oh, okay. Try it again.
All right.
Okay, there you go.
I'm
There's
here. That's all right. Maybe there was a reason for me to take a breath and pause. So I have this might, I'm sure this is a session material, but I'll ask here to begin to open up to something that's, I just left the hospital. You know, I had for 30 years, not to go into the history, I'm learning not to, thank you. But I'm living with a untreatable neuroendocrine carcinoid tumor in my lungs. So I haven't given it a whole lot of emphasis because it's just, I'm working with the energetics and wouldn't choose treatment anyway. So I'm here to ask how can I work with this? How can I work with me? And is it, and I'm sure it's private session material with you, but how to apply this beyond the fixed mind of, oh my God, I have this, you know, and I haven't been living with that in my mind, but it's the quality of life where I have trouble. It's challenging just to breathe.
Okay.
So I don't want to go into all the stories. I'm learning not to. Thank you very much.
No, thank you very much.
No, it's just, but it's huge that it's, you know, yeah, I think it's enough. And because you're living it, you're living what you're teaching. I see it, I feel it. And you present it as if it's so easy. No, you know, so
I'm going to reflect back to you that
how do I bring that in, and can I really change this? Can I
I'm going
transmute
to turn around and ask that to you. Can you really change this?
I
Answer
choose
the
to?
question for yourself.
Yeah. Some doubt.
Okay.
There's some doubt and fear, or, you know, yes.
Okay.
So I don't have the full faith.
Yeah. Well, I would say let's start there.
Mhm.
And also, but let's also trace it back to anytime that we have something going on physically, that's kind of the last stage, right? Like first it's out here and then it goes through, the spiritual and the mental, the emotional, and then it hits the physical body. And that's in the old paradigm. Now we're going to switch it. And now we're going to let the body lead, right? And then the body is actually going to shift first. Then it's going to be the mind. Then it's going to be, hopefully, it'll be in the frequency of not the emotion, but the feeling. And then it'll hit consciousness. So with that, the first thing that I'd like you to identify is, what light body, what body am I experiencing this from? So obviously you're going to be in kind of that first and second light body. So the first light body is the awareness that your body isn't true in the frequency that we are in within the matrix. It's the illusion of the matrix itself, that your body is literally creating a looping cycle and your consciousness is existing within that looping cycle. The second body is the ability to know that your body is a direct reflection of the consciousness that you're in, right? And those two bodies, once we master them, then we get to move on to the third body, where we actually start to bring the physical form into a frequency beyond physical form, and our cells actually start to move beyond mutation and actually shift into an online experience that's holding a very specific frequency and does not fluctuate. And that's the longest body that we'll be in. So when I'm looking at you and you have this physical problem going on, it's start to master those first two light bodies, meaning that even this thing that's happening inside of you is part of the illusion of the matrix itself. And So the more that you bring your attention to that and you bring your consciousness into the experience of whatever it is that you're experiencing, then what happens is that when your consciousness, let's say, goes into your lungs and is attuning to the frequency that's there, let your consciousness fully move into it and meet the consciousness that it's holding and see it all the way through. Because what's going to happen is it's going to neutralize, because it doesn't have the observation of you naming what it is. Because when your consciousness meets it, what happens? It becomes one, right? You're no longer consciously naming the experience, you are the experience. And that will start to diminish the form that it has, because it can only, what creates form, you guys? Observation of a frequency creates form. So if that observation meets the frequency and you attune to the frequency and actually become the frequency, it cannot exist. It can't hold form anymore. So that should be your practice for a while. Jess, is what does it feel like for me to neutralize the experience of it by not naming it, but becoming it? And there's going to be a part of you that's going to be like, well, I want to resist it because I don't want to become it. But it's actually becoming it that neutralizes it and makes it disappear, because it can only be true. It can only be in form is when you're in observation that it's there. Does that make sense? So that would be the first and second light body to start practicing.
Is it similar if I translate this on another? Is it similar to if you have grief or hatred or any emotion and you disregard it, you're just observing it and not sort of encompassing it?
Yeah, like resistance would be
Resistance that
yeah,
you then, it then gets bigger than
yes,
life. So
yes.
it's somewhat similar, but
Yeah, but you're actively
but
participating.
I'm doing, yes.
Yes. So
Yeah,
because you're not resisting it at that point, and
that's
you're not naming it either. You're
right.
not saying, oh, this is my experience and I can't breathe and this is happening. It's like when those things happen, don't stop there, because it's your body showing you something. So instead of being like, oh, I can't breathe, and then going into a story of what that's like, go, oh, I can't breathe, and actually meet the frequency of not being able to breathe and merge your consciousness with it, so that you become kind of one with that. So you're not saying, oh, it's saying this and it's saying that. You're actually bringing your consciousness into it, so you become that. And even if you can only hold it for 30 to 40 seconds, when you come out of it, know that the frequency that it's holding is only there because you're in observation of it. Because every time we're observing the body, we're in the matrix. It's only when we're in the expression of the intelligence of our body that we're actually bringing the body outside of the matrix. And that's the practice, is to be able to turn everything inside out. So with your breathing, turn it inside out. Your body is so intelligent, Jess. It's so intelligent, and your mind is not going to be the part of you that leads to healing. It's going to be your body. So every time you attune your consciousness to the parts of your body that are showing you something, it's going to turn on a frequency of an intelligence for you to follow, but your body's going to lead you first. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, let's see. I'm going to go. Does anybody else have a share? Let's see. Ashara, I haven't seen you in a while. Hi, honey. Oh, you're still on mute. You actually are.
I actually am. Yeah, I just said it, so I'm so glad to be here. So just following on from what Jess said, can you just confirm for me, Jules? Because I've had surgery in my wrist and all that kind of stuff this last year, blah, blah, blah. And I have found recently that I've just started to use it. Like I just use my hand now, right? And I don't start thinking about, all the details of the healing. I'm just going into using it. And I've found in the last week or so that it's starting to heal much more rapidly. Is that what you mean? Or is it part of what you mean?
I would say yes. If you're, there's a lot of science behind what you're saying too. So yeah, I guess this way I'm gonna say. So yes, but there's a step that you could take it a little bit further with that, because when our body is rapidly healing, right? It's in the expression of that pure intelligence. But there's a part of us that should be actively participating in that, meaning that we're moving consciousness into the experience of what's rapidly healing. And why would we want to do that, right? Well, because the body is leading the mind. And so if we're just letting the body do what it's doing, but we're not consciously attuning and following that, then this consciousness is always separate in an observation of the healing instead of being part of it. Does that make sense? So like when you're doing that, just like there's an actual frequency pattern that's being created within the healing. Let yourself attune to that and actually move into the intelligence of the healing itself. It's
Yeah, you're muted all of a sudden.
That was weird. Okay, the universe doesn't want you guys to hear this. This is funny. So the way we've been taught is that, oh, go think this, or oh, feel this, and then it'll happen. That's the looping cycle. The body leads and then consciousness meets it. So if we're just letting the healing happen and we're not attuning consciously to what the body is doing, then it's the other way around, right? We're in either observation of it or we're trying to make something happen. But if we can keep our attuning to what the body is saying and doing, then we're letting the body turn on those codes and the DNA hold that frequency, and we're attuning to what that frequency is. Because what's going to end up happening, you guys, is that our body already knows how to ascend. It already knows how to do that. The part that's getting in the way is us holding on to the attachment of what our body is now. So if we can let that go and let the body lead, we can practice attuning to the intelligence of the shift itself. And then it's a lot easier to let go of the attachment because we're actually following the one thing that we're attaching to. Make sense?
Does.
Yay, so fun. Anybody else have a share or a question? I'm going to let you put your hand up because I can't see. Okay, well, if that's all, then I'll give you just another minute to just kind of feel into if there's something else that you'd like to. This is your time.
Jennifer has a.
Yeah, I
Okay.
just wanted to, hi, I just wanted to just say like, so more like specifically for Jess, like, would that be like asking for a divine attunement into her lungs that's going to reflect the evolution symbol, or something as simple as that?
For right now, I'd like to keep her in that first and second light body to where she's aware that she is an observation of what it is she's trying to shift.
Okay.
And as soon as she sees that she's an observation, knowing that that observation is a direct reflection of the consciousness that she's holding, and this is all this thing that she's experiencing in her lung is doing is reflecting the consciousness that she's holding, the agreement that she's holding it in. And that doesn't mean, oh, go searching for the belief and all of this, because all it is inviting her to come in and attune to what's there. So because when she does that, what ends up happening is that she moves out of observation. As soon as she moves out of observation, she's created a space of no space, no time. And once that happens, the body is in a neutral space where immediately that divine intelligence will start to move through. Then she has the opportunity to let her consciousness attune to that intelligence and move into an expression to where what she was experiencing can't exist. And it just becomes the practice over and over and over again. And that's true for anybody that's having physical things happening. It's a really easy way, but then it's not, because right, we're so programmed to stay in observation of what's happening in our body. But the opposite should actually be true. Like the body's going to show you something in the beginning, because that's why we master the first and second level of the light body, is we master that our body is showing us what we need to be in observation of, because we're always in observation of our body being separate. But really all our body is saying is, this is the level of consciousness you're in. This is the level of consciousness you're in. And it's inviting us to turn it inside out and move into expression. Once we can use the body in that way, then we start to move into, the body actually starts to bring us into a higher spin state, to where the cells will start to create a completely different way of division, until that mitochondria gets strong enough and we actually shift the cell into something completely different. And that's a whole nother course, but you know what I'm saying. Okay, Trish. Thank you, Jennifer.
Hi, I just wanted to say thank you, and that I really appreciate the totality of this conversation, because I'm hearing all the bulleted points in divine expression and the larger picture. And it made me aware of how often I keep slipping into observation where I think I'm not. So that was really important. So thank you. And Jess, thank you for your not your story, but your contribution. It's really helpful, and the responses are helpful to me. So that's all I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Trish. Thank you. Beautiful. Yeah, you know, the body, reality, all our calendar days, they're all there to see what we have agreed to. That's all it is. It's like, wow, that's the level of consciousness I'm holding, is all it's doing is showing us. So if we can start to see these things as, wow, okay, I see that's what it is, but I know that's not what it is. So what is it? And then we invite that frequency to turn on, and we can move into something that we haven't created before, that hasn't been put in form. But we're not doing it so that we can see new form. We're doing it so we can actually move into the creation of an intelligence that hasn't been created in the matrix.
Yeah, I was I have become more aware of that. I'm really actually doing it to change the form, even though my mind is saying, no, not to do that, but there is that piece of me that's doing it. So it's this little bit of an argument, a large argument back and forth, because I know, but you can't know what you don't know, but I know. So
I love that you just said that, because that's true, Trish. And the part of you that knows is that intelligence that's turning on in you. It knows that you have the ability to exist without existing, meaning that you can exist without observation. And until then, we use observation in order to attune to the frequency of the intelligence beyond it. It's still like, everything has purpose. There's nothing that's good or bad or this or that. The matrix isn't bad. Our bodies aren't bad when they're showing us something. It just means that we're supposed to see it so that we know that it's holding a frequency of consciousness. And then once we see it, we bring our consciousness into it. It neutralizes, we move beyond observation, and then the frequency turns on of the divine intelligence, and then we can move into that and have an experience beyond what was shown. It's really not hard, you guys. It's just
Mhm.
doing it. It's having the awareness, first of
Mhm.
all, and practicing it. And none of us can do it all the time
Mhm.
right now. Like, that's why it's a practice. It's something that we practice when we become aware of it. And
Mhm.
if there's things physically happening in the body, well,
Yeah.
perfect, because you're going to be an observation of that.
Yeah, because even I practice with the symbols a lot, often, all day. But even while I'm doing that, sometimes I find that I'm going through the process, but I'm also looking for the outcome as well. So how do I just stay simply in the process, but not in the observation of an outcome? Like, what do I say or do, or how do I shift that?
I think what you do is when you go into looking for outcome, you
Mhm.
just bring it back. Because
Okay,
all you did is you went from the fourth to the third level of consciousness.
okay,
So it's
okay.
just, okay, I see that I went into the third level of consciousness. And then just bring it back and be like, okay, I'm going to move back into the frequent, because that's all it
Mhm.
is. You don't have to know what it's
Mhm.
doing. It's just the choice to be okay with not knowing where it's going. It's that full surrender. Well, what is it that you're actually surrendering? You're
Mhm.
surrendering the need to know, right? The need to have
Mhm.
outcome, the need to hook into the matrix to see the form. And that's why the body's going to lead. And that part of us, that of the mind that wants to keep leading, we just got to pull it back and bring it behind the body and let the body
Mhm.
keep leading. So it's just a practice, because we were taught the opposite way, right? So now we're unraveling all of that and
Mhm.
into expression of an intelligence where the body is going to lead. And that's a weird place to be. Thank
Yeah.
you, Trish.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go with Kathy.
This is going to be a really awesome 11/11 because we're doing the activation, and I invite everybody to go for the inside out. This is going to be totally awesome. And
I love
so everybody that's going to be there, I asked them before we get on the call to bring in that inside out, and we'll express from that place.
Beautiful. Yes. Super excited for that. Thank you, Kathy. Diana,
Hi, can you hear me, Jules?
I can.
And there's no feedback this time?
No.
Awesome. My quick question is, will there be a replay of this Zoom?
Yes, it will be up on the Activate Evolution YouTube channel, probably by this evening. And as soon as Dominic has a chance to put it into the a podcast, it will be on the podcast. If you go to activateevolution.com, you can go to podcast at the top, and it will also play there. But it'll also be, if you just put in a search for Activate Evolution on Spotify or Google Play, it'll also come up on there.
Super, thank you very much.
Thank you for asking. All right, my lovelies. Well, I feel like we had some really good reflection here, and I hope that it has supported you in moving forward and really stepping into full mastery of what it is to be a soul leader and live our highest potential. That's what it's all about. That's what it's all about. It's the biggest shift. So we will go ahead and sign off. And thank you, everybody that is here holding this space with me, and also those that are listening. And we're sending you all so much love and a great big hug. And until we meet again, go and live to your highest potential.